What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another chance encounter.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house that's going to be torn down soon.
I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close.
What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building.
I'm joined today with Dr. Evana Valenzuela. How you doing today, Evana?
I am doing fantastic. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, it's always my pleasure, and I got some great news for you, Ivana, which is my very favorite audience member is joining us today. And why is my favorite audience member here? It's because this is a chance encounter where I interview commercial real estate syndicators, investors, buyers, sellers, all that kind of stuff. Now, why would I do such a silly thing? Well, if you know about off-market, private, also known as 506B deals, you'll know that the SEC requires that you have a documented or substantive relationship just so that you're all in the clear. So that means you need to find out people's level of sophistication, appetite for risk, and all that kind of stuff. But for you, yes, you in the audience, I want to help you learn to effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate deals and all the vocabulary that goes with that. But before we get too excited about what Ivana does as far as her business goes, Ivana, do you want to say a thing or two about yourself first?
Yes, I am a physician. I am an endothyroid endocrinologist, and I practice in Florida.
Mhm.
And I got involved in real estate last year, and it has become a really interesting topic for me that is like on the high level of priority in my life right now.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So the first segment that we do here is the motivations. Before I do the motivations, though, I gotta say, but wait, check your eight, Ivana. I don't know if you can see through the camera and then down at your eight. If the audience is five, down over there, but there might be this big ugly subscribe button on the user's device that maybe they should. Okay, okay, it's a stupid joke, but I do it in every episode. All right. The five distinct motivations. I've interviewed and spoken with a ton of different investors and syndicators, and one thing that is really important is like these deals, they take a while and there are risks involved. So I need to find out what's going to make somebody go through this whole process. And even though everybody has their own unique why, I found they fit pretty neatly into these five different categories. So here's the first one: preservation of purchasing power. What on earth is that? Well, some people already have a portfolio of assets, and that the proceeds from ownership is how they make ends meet. And so the only reason why somebody like that is going to make another acquisition is going to be either because inflation is eating away at the cash flow, the purchasing power of that cash flow, or they're able to buy when there's an asset crash, basically a steep discount, signs of distress, that sort of thing. That's not really what I'm up to. I'm not there yet. Where I am is trading time directly for wealth. I got a sneaking suspicion that this is going to be a big one for Ivana. And what that's all about, if you are a high wage earner or a high salary earner, me personally, I was in tech, so that's why it was me, you're going to notice that you're paying more in tax than anybody else. I started doing CRMs, which is the mass emailing and all that kind of stuff, and online funnels,
Mhm.
IT infrastructure for real estate back in 2014. And my boss was flipping 10 houses a month. And I was like, well, why am I paying all this income tax when I could pivot, do something closer to what my old boss was doing, and then get rewarded in the form of deployed capital, AKA equity? So that's why I'm doing this. But a lot of youngsters, when they get into commercial real estate, I think it's because there are big numbers floating around. These properties are millions of dollars each, and they're thinking if they could just get a piece of these different deals, then maybe they could retire early. Or really, what it boils down to is taking over control of your schedule. Maybe that means working fewer months per year. Maybe it means fewer weeks per month. Who knows? But that's the idea, is to dial back eventually. That's in stark contrast with the fourth group. They're just plain ambitious. They want to get that generational wealth. They want to buy their entire hometown and make sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold a day job. And that is why they're making their acquisitions. And they're great people to have on your team because they're going to be hustling into their 90s rather than finding a way to stop, to retire early. The last group, they're also going to hustle into their 90s, but they're a bit different because they found a sector of society, or maybe it's the environment or animals, something like that. But they realize that there's a financial component to making that real impact, make it actually happen. And that's why they are building their own net worth and picking up these different parts of these commercial real estate deals. So, Ivana, as far as those 5 different motivations there, what combination of those would you say describes you best?
I first of all, I have to say that I love the five categories in the way you describe it. I think it fits perfectly into the motivations that people tend to have while doing this. For me, it started trading time more than anything for wealth. I do have to agree that with you about the tax. I mean, I get taxed to the max basically,
Mhm.
and I realize that there are better ways to do my taxes than just paying this much. Um, but finally, it's one of those things that evolves. That was the first motivation, and then I realized that there's so much impact that I can have. After like while you get that and you accomplish that, you realize that there's so much impact you can actually have on other people, and that is also a significant factor as well.
I love it. I love it. But the next thing that brings me to is tolerance for risk. Now, if you've ever been involved in a 506B deal, there's a standard questionnaire that securities attorneys generally require that issuers give to all the investors. And they got lots of pushy, invasive questions about your finances, probably more than you know about your own parents' financial situation. But there was one question that really jumped at me because between my teaching and my online web creation, wizard creation experience, I'm always looking for questions where even if I have the answer, if it's not really going to tell me anything, then I'm going to make a switch. And it's all well and good to say, hey, there's lots of money in commercial real estate, there's space for everybody. The fact is, there are these major risks because they take months. There's all kinds of things that can go wrong. So I need to make sure that people understand that, especially what an illiquid asset is. The way I do it, though, is this fill in the blanks question. There are many popular investment asset classes, but I think blank is too risky. So, Ivana, that can be inside real estate, outside of real estate, whatever. Just what do you think is too risky for you personally to invest in?
For me personally, and likely because I don't have no much knowledge, number one, and number two, because I think is so much up in the air, is cryptocurrency. It's
Mhm.
like, it's like I feel like you're playing with air.
Yeah, yeah. You can't eat it, and it won't give you a roof over your head, and that's why my segue is perfect for that, right? Is that intense or what? So that's the segue I always use to pulling out the Dan Does Deals Commercial Core Competency Cube, and with the 6 different core rules in a commercial deal. And like a complete dummy, if you go to dandoesdeals.com, you'll notice you can download and print out your own copy without even giving your email address. That's a terrible idea from a marketing perspective. You should always ask for some sort of contact information in return for your freebie. But I don't do that because I want to make sure that you learn how to effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate deals. And I also want to make sure that you understand how my guest fits into those deals. It's real fast. It only takes a couple minutes, and I do it in every episode for that exact reason. So let's get started. Repositioners, if the glare on my camera ever goes away. Repositioners, if you could actually see it, maybe if I go like that a little. There's a couple of different properties on there. I might have to adjust that after. There's a repositioner is a person who looks at a bunch of different properties. They are the acquisitions person. And what exactly are they looking for? They're looking for upside, okay? And how do they do that? Well, there's a fancy word for it. They do all this paperwork. It's called underwriting. That's doing the math to make sure that the property is actually making the amount of money that the broker slash seller claims it is, because that's not necessarily the case. But repositioners, they're the glue that bring the whole team together. And one of the most common and I think a little bit counterintuitive parts of it is the relations with financiers. Those are people who only deal with paper and money. And what that's all about is if the repositioner can secure a more advantageous loan, in other words, cheaper money, that goes directly to the profitability of the building. So that's why they're always interacting with investors and trying to make it so that they can get that cheaper money and make that work. See, there you go. Now we fix it. Now you can see my nice picture of the bank. But
There you go.
financiers, exactly. Financiers, I want to emphasize, they only deal with paper and money, so they're not going to be on GP teams. Okay, but financier relations, investor relations are a key part of every repositioner's job. The next more intuitive part is operations, making them more efficient, stopping those Benjamins, which are over here, from going down those toilets. Of course, there's a lot more to operations than just unclogging toilets and collecting rents and things like that. As far as what I contribute to my GP teams, I've got my marketing chops up to snuff. So that means if we have a vacancy rate problem, even if we're outsourcing to a third party, I'm from the internet, so it's usually the bigger properties or what I'm after. But if you have a vacancy rate problem, somebody needs some marketing chops to step in and make sure you get those units filled. And then from my CRM experience, that's a lot of automation that I can help with. But commercial real estate is very competitive, so often the repositioner won't be able to find enough upside from just more efficient operations. So frequently, they'll get a contractor team involved to do value adds or renovations, whatever you're more comfortable with. And the idea being is that the future resident will be much happier paying a higher amount of rent for a nicer apartment unit than the previous one will. So that's why you get the contractors involved, but you can spend endless amounts of money on contractors. You can gold plate toilets and you're not going to get a return on your investment. And so you have to keep a really close eye on them. If you're like me, as I said, I'm from the internet. So that means I need locals. I need boots on the ground who can be there in an hour or two, because you can be certain that's not going to be me. After all, I'd be stuck at an airport in an hour or two. So you need somebody local to take care of these things. But if the repositioner has assembled all this team, they turn around to the financier, they got the property in mind, they say, hey, I got this building, it's 350 units and it's tens of millions of dollars. You don't have, I don't know, tens of millions of dollars you want to lend us for this, do you? Well, the financiers are going to have one big question on their mind, and it's going to become even more obvious if you are in this hypothetical situation. Let's say you're a physician like Evana. One of the things that might run up is you say, hey, let's pull our resources among our social circle and take over this building. The spot where that's going to fall apart is when the financiers asked you, who's your sponsor or who's your KP? What's that all about? See, you're not eligible for a commercial loan unless you have somebody in the fold who already owns a similar asset. So the banks are not going to be lending you commercial loans, commercial money to take over a building unless somebody in the fold already owns, say, a 350 unit apartment complex if you're talking 350. But on top of that, the ownership team has to have a certain amount of liquidity and a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. But if you have all those pieces, you got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So Ivana, since you're a physician, I'm sure you're going to keep on doing that. I imagine you're probably going to be getting into creating a fund if you haven't already. But I imagine that you're going to be mostly on the investor relations side, and then some on the operations side will be some asset management. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. Have I got your role in these deals fairly accurate?
Yes, that's fairly accurate. Relationship and capital raising. Yes.
Mhm.
So,
All right,
and
beautiful.
the some part on the operational management, but yes.
Okay, great, great. So then my next question then has to do with the buy box. And when commercial investors, syndicators, and whatnot are talking to each other and we're saying, hey, what you looking for? What's your buy box? What's your ideal property? We're really asking about three main things. First one's geography. Where is it? So which states, which counties, possibly even which neighborhood. It's really important, and we're going to need to know. The second one is going to be size, okay? And most of my guests are in multifamily, which means apartment complexes. And the way that we judge size is based off of the number of units, because you're going to have a completely different group taking over 5 or 15 unit apartment complexes from the 100, 150, 350, and so on apartment complexes. So that size is going to matter. Other forms of commercial real estate go off of square footage, but that unit count is mostly for the self-storage, multifamily, and whatnot. The third one, though, is the class. And I separate class into two separate words because I hate using the same word for two different things. The first one's condition. What kind of shape is it in? How old is it? How beat up is it? Okay, how many amenities and luxuries and things like that have they got all prepared? That's the condition. The area, it has to do with things like how's the crime rate where that property is located? What about the school districts? How are they? And then both of these versions of class are really about desirability. So it has to do with how much traffic goes by in any given day. It could be foot traffic or cars. And both of those two definitions of class are rated the same way as in grade school, where you got A plus at the top, and then A minus, and then B plus. So, Ivana, as far as you and your group is concerned, what's the sweet spot? What's easier to say yes to and more difficult to say no to?
I will say that we're looking for class C to B. So some add value, and the amount of units is between like 40 and 100.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So mid-size
mm-hmm.
with value add.
With value add, right, right. And then, so were you saying there where you are in Florida, or are you expanding outside of that?
Oh
Or
yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm into North Carolina,
Mhm,
but I also have passive investment in Pennsylvania and the Midwest.
mhm, mhm. All right, excellent, excellent. So then my next question has to do with who you want to meet up with. And it's honestly my favorite part about commercial real estate. It's so multifaceted. People are so eager to build these teams that we're really eager to introduce others and help them create new ones. But at the same time, because we have our own unique skill sets, we're better off helping some people than others. Me personally, because I'm from the internet, I got the CRM background in marketing. It's the sponsors and KPs. Those are people who I like to meet more of. And then the other ones would be the locals, the boots on the ground, people who are actually finding those deals and taking care of them. Those are the ones that I'm looking for. But Ivana, I don't know if you have any 506B deals. Make sure you don't mention them. If you do have any 506Bs, 506Cs are absolutely fine. Same with CFs and A pluses. But as far as people who are out there in the audience, who are you really looking for?
So my target audience is in reality physicians and people in the healthcare industry. Um, in general, I'm looking for accredited investors. Is that is the truth. And with good relationships that I feel comfortable, like people who can identify with me, and who can feel that I'm adding value to their portfolio and adding value to their wealth, like future wealth.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. I love it. I love it. And then as far as how to reach out, I'm lucky because as far as the internet goes, I got this distinct last name. So that makes me really easy to find. The platform on social media that's best to find me is LinkedIn. But if you scan this QR code that I got on my screen, that takes you to the FAQs page of 506BME. That's the platform I created to help people document their substantive relations with their investors. So if the SEC says, hey, where's your documentation to prove that you knew people's level of sophistication, appetite for
Mhm.
risk, and so on, you've got that documentation in place. So that's all on the up and up. But Ivana, if people want to reach out to you, I know we caught each other through LinkedIn, but what are the best ways to reach out?
So LinkedIn is a great way. Evana Valenzuela. I have an unusual name, so I'm the only person with it.
Mm-hmm.
And my website is ablife.com,
Okay.
and that is the way to contact me. Yes,
Excellent. Excellent.
ablifecapital.com. Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. And my last thing, I feel kind of funny mentioning it. It's not really meant for you, but since you're a doctor, I feel bad about this, but I'll go through it anyway. It's my public service announcement for everybody in the audience, which is if you've been watching this episode and you've been experiencing searing pains in your eyeballs and like migraine-like symptoms, I'm really confident it's the hideous subscribe button that's right there, and you can just click it for free and it goes away. And of course, I want you to do it because if enough people click on that button, then YouTube will start paying for these videos instead of me. I think that would be really amazing. But honestly, all it does, as I said, it doesn't cost you anything. It just means that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions, but you can feel free to ignore those suggestions because I just appreciate the fact that you spent this time with me. Just like Ivana, I appreciate you joining me today. This has been great getting to know you a little bit better.
Thank you so much, Dan, for the invitation.
All right, awesome. Thanks.
Make sure you 506B me. Any syndicators, make sure you 506B me.
Hi.
Oh, hey, yeah, here's my code. You got your QR code scanner? Okay, yeah, oh yeah, just hold it right in the square there. Okay, cool. And now you hit open in browser.
Okay.
Okay, are you already logged into 506B me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so there's my video. So now I'm already on your watch list. So when you get back to your hotel, you can find out what my core competencies are and my level of sophistication. Sound good?
Yeah.
I love your hat. Real estate's a scam. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
506B me, everybody.